A very good morning to all of you. Myself, Professor Dhaval Chandarana, and we know that we are discussing a unit number 2 of Cyber Law and Ethics subject known as Information Technology Act. Guys, previously we will discuss a public and private key cryptography and some e-governance, and with help of different advantage we will identify that what was the importance of e-governance or electronic governance. In our previous lecture, we will discuss two different concepts through which we can secure our informations, secure our data, as well as we can communicate with a secure network transactions, which is really helpful in a cyber world or in cybercrime. Guys, as previously we will discuss two different concepts known as a public key and a private key cryptography. In this lecture, we will identify that what is a public key cryptography, how we will use a two different key, what was the encryption process, what was the decryption process, and how a two different key will be helpful to secure our communications as well as our informations. Then we will discuss a private key cryptography. In this particular algorithm, we will share a one single key with a receptions and a senders as well as a receiver end, and through which we can secure our communications data. In the last, we will discuss e-governance. What are the different advantage we will discuss in the concept of e-governance in our previous lecture. I hope you are clear what was the importance of e-governance and how it will helpful to sharing a particular data, as well as we will discuss some of the disadvantage in form of a loss of personal informations, which is really damage, or we can say misuse our personal data like Aadhaar card, PAN card, voter ID and all of them. So guys, in the previous lecture we will discuss some of the things regarding Information Technology Act unit number 2. Today we will discuss some more stuffs in form of unit number 2. Today we will discuss three different topic. First we will discuss legal recognitions of electronic records. Second one, we will discuss legal recognitions of digital signatures. It is also the important concept when we are discussing Information Technology Act, because a data should be in form of soft copy, or whenever we communicate between each other with help of a digital market or digital era, the authentication is must be required, and for this we will use digital signatures. In the last, certifying authority, who can authorize community who can provide some digital authentication signatures through which we can identify that whenever we start a communication with some unknown person, through with a digital signature we can sure about the communication must be a privacy and getting a more secure communications with another party. So it is the things which we are discussing in today's lecture. We will start with the first concept, legal recognitions of electronic records. Guys, what is the electronic records? As we discussed in our previous lecture, in e-governance, whatever the data we will found in a soft copy in form of a government authority, in form of different communications, electronic record is must be there whenever we communicate between each person or each party with help of internet. Let's say that a certain law require a matter written, typewritten or printed. Even in the case of such a law, the requirement is satisfied if the information is rendered or made available in an electronic form and also accessible for the subsequent reference. So whenever we transmit our informations in form of written, in form of typewritten, or we can say in mail, or in form of printed, like a scan a copy which is available in a hard drive or hard copy, but we can transfer with help of an image. So all the information whenever required to transfer from sender to receiver end with help of electronic record, at that time they have some mentions of predefined law in form of IT Act 2000, which is governs by the Indian government. The Information Technology Act 2000 also aims to provide the legal frameworks under which legal syntax is accorded to all the electronic records and other activities carried out by the electronic information system, control and audit means if we want to store our information in form of image, in form of hard drive, in form of any of the soft media, at that time IT Act is a take a part which is defined by the security against all the electronics record. So it should be mentioned in IT Act 2000 as well as the aim to provide the legal frameworks under which a legal syntax is accorded. Means if we are converting our hard data in form of electronic records, so as per the IT Act 2000 we will provide all the security against all those records which is converted in form of electronic records. Like in mobile, if you take a screenshot, if we record our video records, if we take a snaps or pictures, so it is all the things which is known as electronic records for a proof purpose, for the security information purpose, as well as some identifying a data which is happening in nowadays. So it is the things which we are discussing in concept of legal recognitions. The Act state that unless otherwise agreed and the acceptances of contract may be expressed by the electronic means of communications and the same shall have been legal validity and enforcement. Means if we want to convert our information in form of hard copy to electronic records, the mandatory thing which is mentioned by the IT Act 2000, it is required whenever we are storing some record in form of electronic record, whenever we communicate with the other party with help of electronic record, or if we perform any kind of legal agreements which is happening with help of electronic records. So guys, if you are starting your business and you can transfer any of the information in form of mail, in form of image, in form of a call which is happening with the internet call, it take a part under the IT Act which should be mentioned by the Indian government. So it is nothing but a legal recognitions of electronic record. Second thing we will discuss in this lecture is legal recognitions of digital signatures. Guys, legal recognition is nothing but the identifications or importance whenever we discuss any kind of cyberspace, through which we can identify our informations, we can authorize some informations, we can authorize some parties through which we are communicate or maybe communicate in future or in past. So it is nothing but the some mathematics terms which is defined by the IT technical people. Let's say the law require a person's signatures to authenticate some informations or a document. If we have some hard copy data and we found some of the signatures who have identified some of the person who are authorized or not. Notwithstanding anything contained in such a law, if the person authenticated with the digital signature in a manner that a central government prescribed, then he satisfies the requirements of the law. Guys, whenever we perform any online shopping, they generate some of the e-bill. In this e-bill, bottom of the e-bill, you just mentions a line, this is the digital bill will be generated by the computer's copy. There is not required for any digital signatures or physical signatures. So whenever we found some authorizations or QR code which is generated by the electronic media, so it is requirement that they can identify the legal recognitions. If we have claimed anything regarding those code or as well as say a digital signature, we can easily define a proof against all the crimes. So whenever you perform the online shopping, you just find out the things which is under your electronic bill, in the bottom of your electronic bills. So it is nothing but the authorizations through which you can purchase your product, and if anything should be found or defect in your product, you can easily return or refund this amount. The digital signature is created in a two distinct concepts or steps. First, the electronic record is converted into a message digest by using the mathematical functions known as hash functions, which is digitally freeze the electronic records, thus the ensuring the integrity of the sentence or content of the intent communications content in the electronic records. Guys, it is the things which is identified that how a technically digital signature will should be help to protect your authentications. If I want to create my digital signatures with the help of hash functions, it is provide a secure way to provide a digital signatures. So within a particular person have they can put a digital signatures on any of the electronic records, and no one can use or misuse those kind of digital signature, because a digital signature should be provided with help of different functions or mathematical algorithm. So in our first paragraph we will discuss that whenever you purchase some online product, they have provide some digital informations, and in this particular informations they can clearly mentions that this is a e-generated bills, signature is not required, but they have mentioned some QR code, and nothing but a QR code is a authentication person's identity which is generated by a hash functions. Any tampering with the contents of the electronic record will be immediately invalidate the digital signatures. Means if you are getting some electronic record without a digital signatures, you can directly reject those information because it is a not authorized informations. Means if they can damage your system, they can damage a product also, and they can damage your personal data with help of hacking. So whenever you found any electronic records without any digital signatures, you can directly reject on it. Secondly, the identity of the persons affixed the digital signature is authenticated through the use of a private key, which is discussed in our previous lecture, which attach itself to the message digest and which can be verified by anybody who has the public key corresponding to such a private key. So guys, it is the second method through which any of the electronic record, it should be authorized or not, we can easily found that with help of digital signature. And in form of digital signature, we will use the combinations of public key and a private key. So it is a easiest method to identify a message should be authorized or not, or we can say a message should be come to the authorized persons or not, because it should be only and only readable format to conversions to require a private key with help of a different sender's public key. Because we know that what is a public key cryptography, whenever we perform any encryption algorithm with help of public key, it should be only and only converted through the private key, which is defined by the sum of the authorized persons. This will enable anybody to verify whether the electronic record is retained intact or has been tampered with, since it was so fixed with the digital signatures. So if you found some unreadable data, if you are authorized persons, then you can easily found that some of the person or hacker can be try to hack your informations or not, because in form of digital signatures, if someone to access without any kind of permissions, the data should be legally converted into the unreadable form. So whenever we are getting the informations, and if we are authorized persons, and then also we are not getting the actual message, then we can easily understand that someone who can access our message without our permissions, and the person is not a authorized person. So it is the really benefit to use a digital signature in form of electronic records or e-communications. It will also enable a person who has a public key to identify the originate of the message. As we discussed that if someone lock or convert your readable message into the unreadable form with help of public key, so we can easily identify that who are the person who can convert our message into the unreadable form, because they have converting with his a public key, so they can identify easily through the conversion process of unreadable form to the readable form, because we are required a private key for this process, and for that we know that which person or which of the authorized person who can convert this message into the unreadable form to the readable form. So it is the simplest process of encryption and decryptions. We take a part of public key and a private key. Now we will discuss the last concept of this particular lecture. It is nothing but a certifying authority, and we will discuss this topic with help of example. In a cryptography, a certificate authority or a certification authority (CA) isn't the entity that issue a digital signatures. So it is the organizations who can provide a digital signature to the person who are actually authorized for a legal communications in form of cyberspace. It is nothing but a certifying authorities. A digital certificate certifies the ownership of a public key by the named subject of the certificate. This allows other relaying parties to relay upon the signatures or on the assertions, or we can say properties made about the private key that correspond to the certified public key. So whenever we require some authentications identity on electronic communications, we first apply to a certificate authority to generate some digital signatures through which we can identify our personality or our personal identification in form of authorized persons. Like if you want to communicate with some another country's person, how they can believe in ourselves. For this they require some identifications who can provide the surety against a communications, who can provide the surety against a data transmissions, who can provide the surety against a transactions in form of money. So for that we require to identify some authorized person in form of a legal activities through which we can identify, or someone identified us as a trusted person. So for that we went to apply a certificate or nothing but in form of digital signatures. So whenever we start the communication between one person to another person, first we share our digital signatures so they can identify the particular person or party is a trusted one or not. If they are identified a trusted party, then they can start a communication, and then we will communicate with each other. For this we will require to apply our authentications public key through which they can define a private key with help of our public informations. A certificate authority acts as a trusted third party. It is the intermediator between a sender and a receiver, trusted both by the subject of the certificate and by the party relying upon the certificates. The format of this certificate is specified by X.509 or EMV standards. So it is a specific generalized format which is defined by the CA with help of two different version in form of X.509, or maybe they can use EMV standards. So guys, it is the things which is really important to remember, that whenever we want to generate our digital signatures, first we need to prove ourselves as an authorized person in form of a certificate authority, and for this we need to submit lots of information in form of specific standard which is mentioned by X.509 and EMV. It will also enable a person who has a public key to identify the originator of the message, because as a previously we will discuss that if we getting some message into the unreadable form and we want to convert this particular message to readable form, we require two things. First thing, a algorithm name which is applied by the senders, and a private key which is defined the authentications of a particular message. And for the sender they require a encryption process with help of two different algorithm First one, they require some algorithm, and second thing, they require a public key. It should be shared among all over the networks, so they can easily identify whenever we getting a readable form message into the unreadable form. It is nothing but a decryption process. If our key should be accessible or perform those process on successful manner, so we can easily identify that who are the sender of this particular message. Now we see a diagram how a certifying authority provide a digital signature to a particular authorized or authentication persons. They have mentions two different people, Bob and Alice, in your screen, and third thing, which is a third party between Bob's and Alice, is nothing but a CA, known as a certificate authority. Bob's have his own private key, Alice has own private key, but if they want to communicate each other, they want to share his or her public key, and for this they communicate between CA. Bob send his private key to the CA. If CA identified and verified all the information which is mentioned in the Bob's private key, then they can generate a Bob's public key. Same process should be happen on the receiver end. If Alice send a private key to the certificate authority cross verify all the informations through which a private key, and if they found that it is a legal one and it is a legal person who can able to communicate with some another persons, then they can provide a public key to the Alice. Now Bob have a two different key, private key and public key. Public key should be generated by certificate authority. Same manner, Alice have a two different key. Now if a Bob want to communicate with Alice, Bob send a public key which is provided by certificate authority, so Alice can easily identify a Bob is an authorized person or not. Same way, Alice will send her public key to the Bobs, through which Bobs can easily identify the communicative party is authorized or not, and then they can start a communication with help of public key encryption decryption process with help of public and private key, which is shared among Bobs and Alice with help of certificate authority. Guys, it is the things which is we need to remember that how a communication should be happen in form of e-records. So it is a today's lecture. I hope you are clear what is the legal identifications of digital records, digital signatures, and how a certifying authority will take a most important part whenever we transmit our information in form of e-records. Thank you so much.